races, worn out places, worn out faces, bright and early for their daily races.
Welcome back to another episode of KORRACAST. I'm back. I have a hat. That's all I'm good for, so I'm going to shut up.
Today we're going to be...
Touché. You got us.
You got us. We're suckers.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be reviewing Into the Void and the Venom of the Red Lotus, the season finale of Book 3 of Legend of Korra. Is there anything else we got to say?
And you can point some more.
Yeah. Literally the greatest episodes of
Book
Korra.
3, Legend of Korra.
Literally the greatest episodes
You guys,
of Korra.
this has to
Literally.
stop. It's just...
Now what are you good for?
He's not even there anymore. I don't see him. So let's finish this off. The home stretch, the crazy climax. Start at the beginning. Some awesome fighting. I gotta say, we constantly said how cool the fighting was this season.
We did say that the whole final climax felt a little bit like Sozin's Comet.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I think there was enough unique fighting elements in there to still make it feel its own. Particularly, I really liked when Korra was chained up, and she only was using a couple of her limbs, and she was like a feral beast.
Yeah.
I actually think that aspect of it was probably one of my favorite things about this season finale.
Well, yeah, both times she was chained up. When she's shackled and she just has to do like jump kicks and things like that.
Yeah.
And then when she's chained up like this, she kind of also has limited use of what she can do. And they by making her limited to what she can do, they actually made it more interesting and more awesome.
Yeah, it's that kind of that rule. Like it's kind of that thing they say about art. It's like when art with limitations means you actually have to be more creative.
Yeah.
And it was the same with fighting. I mean, well, the bending is an art in itself.
I also love the fact that, I mean, really almost none of the main cast of characters was left out of the fighting. The only ones were the ones that got crippled in the last episode. I mean, really, everyone was involved.
Right.
I mean, you had Sue and Lin going against Plea. Man, did that fight end with a bang. She's dead. Plea is dead. Her head exploded.
Anyway, yeah. So everybody had a good. Everybody was involved in the fight. I think it was kind of funny when they were like, "Okay, here's what our plan's gonna be. We're gonna split into teams, and you two are gonna." Okay, so every single season finale in the entire Avatar series.
But what I did like about that is that Korra finally stepped up. She's the one who made the final call and said, like, boom, I'm taking charge. I gotta be Harry Potter and sacrifice myself to Lord Voldemort. Voldemort.
So yeah, like you mentioned, Tenzin obviously didn't die this episode. In fact, none of the good guys died. I mean, I think, at least I know me personally, I think everyone kind of was preparing themselves for something big in terms of a main character dying or some great loss, and we didn't really see that. But in some ways, and this is kind of going to the ending a little bit, it left us with a different kind of loss, right? There was, it was definitely not the we did it.
Right,
so do we want to talk about that ending?
I mean, we
ending
completely predicted what the ultimate goal of the Red Lotus was.
A lot of people did. A lot of people said that, and I was a little bit disappointed that it was that simple, but it does make sense. I mean, it does fit with their...
What do you mean by simple?
Well, I mean, like, it makes sense from the beginning. They wanted to take out all the world leaders. The Avatar is a world leader. They have to take her out.
Yeah, it makes sense to me in that it was a little bit obvious. Like, yeah, of course they wanted to do that.
Right, but we've also been saying from the get-go that these enemies are going to be straight shooters.
If anything else, it made it, to me anyway, I felt it was more authentic because we get a little bit about the backstory of Zahir and Plea.
I was surprised to see Plea's backstory, and that was cool because that made the next scene. I mean, it's a shame that they had to set it up 5 minutes before we saw it, but it actually did make that scene emotional. The whole idea of him needing this to happen to unlock the ultimate airbending form, oh god, it's so depressing. Even though the bad guys, I was so sad.
Yeah, I love the fact that, I mean, Tenzin, when he sees that Zahir has, unlocked this ability, he's just awe-inspired. And he's just like, one other airbender was ever able to do this. And it's interesting when you think about it, because I mean, that means that really no other airbender has perfected, taking away earthly attachment, to that extreme.
That's great, because that was a really interesting aspect of Book 2 back in Avatar, was Aang's attachment to Katara, and he was just like, no, ain't gonna happen, not gonna do that. And they never really go back to that idea because he's in love with her. But this season has done such a good job of exploring aspects of airbending that we didn't even really think about, including that little thread. Like, okay, what happens if you do that?
I think that's what I think that made the ending a little bit poignant to me, because kind of you see Korra kind of like, she obviously has been scarred from this, but it's less that she's so dramatically sad or hurt or she's empty. She's empty.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And in a sense, that is kind of the void itself, where she's kind of lost attachment to everything.
I guess you could also say that, because I was considering, like, the Venom of the Red Lotus, we all were saying that title has to have an alternative meaning.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then it turned out there really was a Venom of the Red Lotus they're using. So you could almost say that it has, in a way, infected Korra.
Yeah, definitely.
And like...
Yeah. And it
still's with her. It's not like a simple cure. They drew out the physical poison, but she's still poisoned.
Yeah.
That was a great way to end this episode and this season, because we saw her kind of rebound at the end of the last 2 seasons. After everything that she went through, she was kind of okay, but she's gonna be okay though. Like, she kind of is still in a good place somehow. But I really liked the scene where, when she's first injected with the Venom, she sees Amon, she sees Unalaq, she sees scary Red Demon, Vaatu, and all of them are just like, you have no purpose, Korra. Yeah. Because, like, that really is one of the first times we see what her real honest to God, what she's really, like, what is she afraid of? And it did a good job of bringing back the last 2 seasons, which we've talked about. And it's starting to feel more like one story, but also just, like, she's done. She can't take it anymore, And
I think that kind of fuels that last scene, right? Because you see the world kind of post, and the world's still kind of trying to go back to normal a little bit, and she's kind of can't go back, right? You had the president basically giving her lip service, like, after everything he did, like, oh, let's be friends again, Korra, and it's like, man, what, really? After all this, and you're just gonna come out and, like, then she realizes that, I've changed.
I think that one of the things that made this season so compelling is the fact that the villains, they weren't necessarily trying to go about their plan by, like a physical attack. What they were trying to do was, like, destroy, because Korra, she's always been, a strong fighter, but she's always, like, kind of struggled in, like, understanding, like, her purpose and, like, what she was. And so these villains, they were attacking that at their core. Like, they were saying, this world, it no longer needs an avatar.
Yeah. Right, and I think even though on some level, obviously, they were defeated, they obviously were able to succeed in a very large way. And I think in a roundabout way, because the airbending crime-fighting team, or whatever you want to call it, is now going to be going throughout the world fighting crime. Yeah,
they're kind of the Avatar now.
Yeah, and so it's like, well, that is even further pushing the point in Korra's mind, I'm sure, that the Avatar isn't needed.
Because, like, all her greatest fears that she had them telling.
Right. And like, I mean, yeah, she's like, detached or, like, empty, like you were saying, but I feel like it was almost like she's removed every other emotion, or just removed hope from her life, and all that's left is this, like, hopelessness and sorrow, and that's so I think she is still feeling something, but it's hopelessness.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean,
yeah, we talked about the possibility of there being a cliffhanger, and whether we wanted to see that, or whether we wanted to see the Red Lotus actually defeated and it wrapped up. In a way, we got both, because we did see the Red Lotus disabled. We learned that there are possibly more Red Lotus members. We don't know if all of them died, but I think that the main cliffhanger, as we said, is Korra. Her emotional state. Yeah. That really is what's most interesting to me going into book 4, and what I'm really going to be looking forward to seeing how they handle.
Right, and it's interesting too. I was kind of hoping that they were going to bring back some more stuff from book 1, where at the end, the very end of it, she's at her lowest point, right? And that's when she's able to, do the whole thing that she needs to do. And when she's at her lowest emotional point. Well, I mean, this is pretty low here too.
Maybe
I was kind of expecting.
It's hard not to parallel with the original series, right? But in Aang's case, it was a very physical lowest point. He literally was, dead, or as close as you would. And now she physically is won. She defeated, but she's basically dead inside, you could almost say, right? So they're both really lowest points for their characters in one way or another.
Yeah. Also, and what's different from the book 1 finale is she no longer has any sort of connection to her past lives. So she has no help or guidance from, like, Aang or anybody. Yeah. So it's just she's lost.
Yeah, it's nice that we got a little bit of hope in the ending where we saw Janora's kind of graduation. By the way, she looks exactly like Aang.
Yeah, which is intentional.
Yeah, obviously it's intentional, but yeah, we talked about that tear, and we're like, is that a happy tear? Is it sad? No, it's definitely I mean, it's like you said, comparing it to Aang, we see him passed out and looking dead, but man, that tear is like a haunting.
Yeah.
It's a haunting image to end this episode on.
For such a crazy, like, action-packed and still moments of fun kindness in the whole season, really, but especially the finale, and for them to legitimately kind of turn it and make it, you know, feel like, oh, you know, has weight to that type of ending. And that was pretty amazing.
I want to know, like, book 4 is gonna have to resolve in a way. I'm not saying completely resolve her story, but put her in, like, peace of mind to where she feels like she's done enough, or like she is good enough to be the Avatar. Because she definitely hasn't felt that in 3 seasons. So she needs to grow, like, mentally, and just grow stronger in herself.
You know, not to downplay what Aang had to go through, because it was a lot. But he, you know, he knew what his goal was. I gotta take down the Fire Lord, and he did it. And cool. You know, we saw more adventures in the comics, but that, for the most part, that was his main story. But Korra, it almost feels like, okay, I did this. God, now what? Now I gotta deal with these losers. Oh, God, now I gotta deal with these guys. And that...
Right, and all of which have, in some way, threatened the legitimacy of having an Avatar.
Right.
Yeah. Which where Aang was like, it's a global threat, I gotta deal with these bad guys.
I'm the Avatar, that's what I gotta do.
Again, a little more black and white, and hers are more... She doesn't have an easy goal, right? No. She's a little bit more, you know, guideless, kind of looking for, oh, here's an immediate threat, let me do it, but I'm still looking for something more to the core of who I am. But anyways, and a couple side notes, I mean, not to get too much, but I gotta say, I thought Bolin and all the side characters, like, came full, like, all their stories, and Bolin, like, that moment the lava bent, like, it was amazing. Right? I thought it just, like, completely, his whole season arc, I thought, like, made perfect
Mako, we didn't see much of him this season, but his big moment was...
That was awesome.
That was a big moment.
All of those moments were awesome. And this is completely nothing, but I can't get over it without odd Kukui, Guinevere, Jablublu. Whoever, what?
I know the second one that you said.
Guinevere.
Yes, the wife of King Arthur. I mean, I know it has nothing to do with anything, but it's so off the wall.
You don't introduce a character in the last episode.
They took precious minutes. They take precious minutes out of the last moments that we had in this whole season to say, hi, I'm a character.
It was the second to last episode. It wasn't in Venom. So you would think they were setting up something for the last, but they didn't even do that. Anyway, a weird way to end the discussion on, but...
That's fine. I don't want to talk anymore.
All right, well, I think we could all agree. Well, okay, put a last quote. Best season of Korra so far? And how's it compared to other seasons of Avatar?
Definitely best season of Korra. Yeah. I think this is comparable to some of the best stuff in Avatar. I think I might like it better than Book 1 of Avatar. It's hard putting it up against the stuff in Book 2 and 3, because Book 2 and 3 of Avatar is...
That's some quality television.
But I gotta say that, first starting to watch Avatar, it took a while for Book 1 to hook me, but... God, this season. You know what I mean?
It was, from the get-go, I thought it was really, really
beginning to end. Wasn't a weak episode. That's about where I am, you know?
Yeah, I'm really hoping that they can carry it on in Book 4. Yeah. Like, I have no idea what to expect or where to go from here. Do you think we're gonna have to go through, like, for the first half of the season is Korra and physical therapy? Like,
well, yeah, I know. Yeah, actually, you said about Dark Knight Rises. I mean, this season felt like, let's tear down the establishment and riot, and now we could see the Avatar maybe, like, way later, like, is a recluse living in a mansion.
Yeah.
Getting her meals under a door slot, and they're like, Avatar, you gotta come back for one last kerfuffle.
You got once more.
So for viewer response, we're not gonna have a viewer response for this particular episode, but join us for the live stream where you guys can ask us any questions that you want, and we'll chat. And it'll be just a big viewer response. That's all it's going to be.
Hey, be a winner and check out our live stream.
And if you're watching this after the live stream, with too late, you missed it. Also, if you guys didn't get the memo on Facebook, we extended the deadline for the Project Runway Challenge. We're not going to be announcing the winners on air. You have until September 2nd to put your entries in. I guess we'll announce the winners on some other... we still got to review Rift Part 2 at some point.
I think 3's coming out pretty soon.
Oh, so. God dang it. KORRACAST is never going to end.
Oh, also the soundtrack.
Did we do Rift Part 1?
Yeah.
Part 1?
Also, there's a video game coming out.
And there's a video game coming out. So, KORRACAST, we got more things. Stick around. KORRACAST isn't going away. Live stream. Video game review. Rift Part 2.
Chewie.
Stop. Just stop.
Let's get some pudding in you. nothing
Ready?
but a wheelchair. Tell me why Korra's in a stupid wheelchair. Tell me why Korra's in a wheelchair. Korra's in a wheelchair.
That made me sadder than the